Hi, so welcome to another story time with Stephanie. I'm attempting to do a recording this time as opposed to doing this live, so I apologize because I said I was going to do a live stream, but I kind of just want to see how this works out. Um, so again, if you're unfamiliar with Storytime with Stephanie, this is my new video segment where I share one of my life stories with you guys who, for some reason, watch them and maybe enjoy them, or maybe you make fun of me, or maybe you like have a drinking game made out of it somehow. I don't really care why you watch it, as long as you're watching it and you're getting something out of it. Anyways, so yeah, I guess I should like start things off. Um, I've been telling Oma stories so far. I've told two Oma stories. Two. I've got so many more, but I'm gonna take a detour and tell you a story that takes place in the apartment that I live in with Oma. So I mean, it's sort of there. Um, I was sleeping this one day. It was probably like in October or November of last year, so 2012. And I was sleeping and I woke up and um, I look over and I see this shoelace on the floor and I'm like, what? How did that get there? I guess like I thought my cat must have dragged it over. And so, I was like, oh, okay, whatever. I'll just move that in a bit. But my cat started to get like really squirrely. Like she was just like, ah, what is that? And started to just like get super intrigued by it. And I was groggy. I'd just woken up. And I'm like, wait a second. I don't own any shoes with shoelaces. I mean, none that would be out. And so I take a closer look. And there's like a freaking snake in my room. I live in an apartment building. So like, it's like, what? What is happening to my life right now? Um, so I'm like freaking out, I'm freaking out. And I call my best friend, I call Amy, and I'm like, here, Lexi, got a phone. I'm like, Amy, oh my God, I don't know what to do. I'm freaking out. There's a snake in my room. Amy, there's a snake in my room. What do I do? And she's like, I'm expecting her to be like, oh my God, what do I do? What do you do? What do you do when there's a snake in your room? But instead, she just like kind of, there's a pause, and she just goes, Steph, grow a pair. It's just a snake. And I'm like, not the reaction I was hoping for, but thank you for coming out. Anyway, so I guess her mom overhears her be like, it's just a snake. And her mom asks, what's happening? And Amy's like, oh, Steph has a snake in her room. And I just hear her mom, Nadine, go like, oh my gosh, like freaking out on my behalf. And I'm like, thank you for having the appropriate reaction to a phone call that's like, oh my God, what do I do? There's a snake in my room. Anyways, so it's kind of like right by my door. And it's in between my door, like right there, and my closet, which is like, oh, look, you can see my lamp, but like right here. So it's like between these two things. And I have like not a clue what to do because if I scare it, there's a good chance it's going to go into my closet and I might not ever find it again. So I'm like, what do I do? My door is open a little bit, thankfully, because my cat just kind of comes and goes. And I get up and like I'm slowly opening the door and like trying not to scare it. And thankfully it's like not too jittery or anything. And so I do this like elaborate. I had the cat, had to grab the cat because I didn't want the cat to scare it and drag the snake away. Anyways, so I lock her in the bathroom and she's like freaking out because she wants to play with the snake. And I go into the kitchen and like the whole time I'm like, please don't let it not be there. Please don't let it not be there when I get back. Oh my God, please, 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 please. Um, anyway, so I go through and I go and find this Tupperware container that's like big enough to, fully capture the snake without hurting it. Because I don't want to hurt it. It's just like lost. I don't know why it's in my room. I don't want it there, but it's not its fault. So anyways, I come back with a Tupperware container and the snake is thankfully still there. I'm like, oh my God. And so now my next big challenge is, capturing this snake in the Tupperware container. So, you know, I want to get like the head first so that, if I try and like, because if I do it by the tail and then go forward, there's a chance that I could like sort of push it away and like scare it. So, I finally get the Tupperware container on it. And then I'm like, shit, what do I do now? Oh my God. And so, I finally am like, okay, I get like this, I don't know, like a piece of paper or something, and I slid it underneath so it wouldn't get hurt. And then I got like this lid on top of it, and left like the little bit open so it could breathe. And I have all these photos. I'll post them up, but I'm like holding this like snake in this Tupperware container. And I'm like, oh my God, I have a snake in my room. And I'm like tweeting this whole time. And I'm like, caps lock, freaking out. And like sometimes I'm like, oh, like with no context. And people are like, why are you yelling? And then they like go back a few tweets and they're like, oh my God, I'm like freaking out for you. So, anyways, I get the snake, put on some shoes and some clothes because I was in my pajamas. And I go outside and I'm going to go get like the snake, let it loose in a field that's close by. And there's my apartment maintenance workers out there, and they're like, "Oh, you're the girl living with your grandmother, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, that's me." And they're like, "What you got there?" And I'm like, "Oh, well, I'm glad you asked. Right in this container, I have a snake." And the one guy's like, "Ha ha 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 ha." Ha. And then he kind of like looks, and you can see like he thought I was joking. And all of a sudden he's just kind of like, "You really have a snake?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Why do you have a snake?" And I'm like, "Because I found it." He's like, "Where did you find it?" And like, "In my room." He's like, "And you live like in apartment whatever?" And I'm like, "Yeah, that's where I live." He's like, "And you found it in your room?" And I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Oh my God." And he's like freaking out. And all of a sudden he's like on the phone and he's like, "Jerry, you have to get over here, right over here right now." And there's like a few complexes in my area, so I guess they're owned by the same people, and the maintenance workers kind of go between them all. Anyway, so all of a sudden there's like this guy, like, Jerry, and he's kind of like running over, like through the parking lot, and they're like, "What? What? What's up?" And he's like, "She found a snake in her room." And they have a little freak out amongst themselves for a little bit while I'm there, and I'm like, "Yay! Wow, cool." And finally, I'm like, "I'm gonna go let this guy go," and they're like, "Yeah, we gotta go." Ooh. And they have like this moment where they're both kind of all like clearly like holding something back, and I'm like, "What?" And the one guy's like, "Well, maybe this old guy wasn't crazy." And I'm like, "What?" And he's like, "Yeah, so last week this old guy called, and we thought he was crazy because he was like, 'There's snakes in my closet!' And we just thought he was a crazy old man. So we went to go check it out because we're like, all right, crazy old man, there's snakes in your closet." And so they'd gone up there, and apparently there was like no snakes in the closet. But he's like, "They were there. There was a nest of them." And they just were like, "Oh yeah, there was a nest of them." And once I found this snake in my room, they were like, oh my God, what if there is a nest of them? And so basically they just kind of were like, we gotta go. And they ran off to go check with this dude to see if there was snakes in his apartment. So I let the little guy go in a field. I walked, there's like this field a little ways away that it wouldn't come back here, ideally. Um, and I let him go, and I'm kind of attached to him by this point. I mean, I don't want him in my room, and I don't want to keep him either, but I'm kind of like, aw, we had like adventures today. And yeah, it was it's interesting. So I haven't had any snakes in my room since, but like it's horrible. It's been almost a year since this happened, but like I find myself still like shaking out my shoes and like I shake out like my bed sheets and I check under my pillows before I go to bed, and I'm like so paranoid that these snakes are gonna come back and like haunt me. By haunt me, I just mean like infest my room. But oh, I was such a wreck about the whole thing for so long. I was like, I feel like I kind of have to move. But of course, like almost a year later, I'm still here. So I guess it couldn't have been that traumatizing. Um, anyways, so that's it for the third episode of Storytime with Stephanie. Um, I I'm so happy that you guys are enjoying these things, these stories of mine, these quirky tales of woe and shenanigans. If you like them, I'm attempting to do them every Monday around 7:30, 8 o'clock EST, Eastern Time. Um, so yeah, follow me on Twitter if you want to know when one's going up. I'm at Hello Cookie. Um, this post and all the others can be found on talkingcomicbooks.com. And yeah, thanks so much for tuning in. And until next time, bye guys.